Kang Wu stood in the middle of the biggest room he had ever seen. The walls stretched so far away that they looked like mountains in the distance. Above him, the ceiling disappeared into darkness. Around him, hundreds of alien beings filled seats that rose up like a giant stadium. Some of the aliens were as tall as buildings. Others looked like floating clouds made of green gas. A few had metal parts instead of skin. One group looked like walking trees with too many arms. Kang Wu was the only human in the room, and he felt very small. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 3 years now. Most days were boring. The aliens would argue about trade routes or complain about mining rights. Today felt different. The message that brought him here had been marked urgent in 17 different alien languages. A deep voice boomed across the chamber. The session will now begin. Kang Wu looked up at the speaker's platform. Supreme Overlord Vexthari stood there like a giant statue. His gray skin looked like stone, and his forearms moved with slow purpose. Red eyes glowed in his massive head. When he spoke, his voice made the floor shake. Citizens of the galaxy, Vexthari began. We gather today to address a threat that has grown too dangerous to ignore. Kang Wu pulled out his small tablet and started taking notes. He wondered what threat they were talking about. The last big problem had been space pirates near the outer rim. That was solved months ago. For 5,000 years, Vexthari continued, we have maintained peace in this galaxy. 5,000 years of order. 5,000 years of proper civilization. The alien crowds murmured agreement. Kang Wu kept writing. He had heard this speech before. The Galactic Council loved to talk about how peaceful and organized they were. But this peace has been broken, Vexthari said. His voice got louder. There is a species among us that does not follow the natural order. A species that grows too fast. A species that spreads where it should not go. Kang Wu looked up from his tablet. This was getting interesting. These beings pretend to be simple and harmless, Vexthari said. But our scientists have discovered the truth. They are developing technologies that should not exist. They are appearing in places that should be impossible to reach. They are changing our cultures in ways that threaten the very foundation of galactic civilization. A chill ran down Kang Wu's back. He had a bad feeling about where this was going. Vexthari raised all 4 of his arms. The evidence is clear. In the past century alone, human colonies have appeared in 17 different star systems that our best ships cannot reach. Human traders have somehow found routes through space that cut our travel times in half. Human entertainment and ideas are spreading through our worlds faster than any plague. The alien crowd started making angry noises. Some roared. Others made clicking sounds. A few glowed brighter. They call themselves peaceful, Vexthari said. But how does a species that learned to fly between stars only 5,000 years ago suddenly outpace civilizations that are millions of years old? How do they appear where our physics say they cannot go? How do they influence cultures that existed before their planet was born? Kang Wu's mouth went dry. He looked around the chamber. Hundreds of alien faces were staring down at him with anger and fear. There is only one explanation, Vexthari declared. The humans are not what they appear to be. They are a threat to everything we have built. A threat to the natural order of the galaxy. The Supreme Overlord's red eyes fixed on Kang Wu. Ambassador of Earth, you will hear the judgment of this council. Kang Wu stood up slowly. His legs felt weak, but he kept his face calm. I'm listening. By unanimous vote of all 847 member species of the galactic hegemony, Vexthari announced, we hereby declare the Galactic Peace Accord dissolved. The human species is declared a threat to galactic security. You have 1 solar cycle to surrender all human worlds and submit to proper containment. If you refuse, we will eradicate your species from the galaxy. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens cheered and roared approval. Some shot lights into the air. Others banged metal objects together. The sound was deafening. Kang Wu stood in the middle of it all, still holding his little tablet. 847 alien species had just declared war on humanity. They wanted to wipe out every human in the galaxy, and they thought they could do it in 1 solar cycle. A small sound escaped from his throat. It might have been a cough, or maybe a laugh. The sound got a little louder. Definitely a laugh. Vexthari slammed a massive fist on his platform. Silence. The chamber went quiet. Human ambassador, you will respond to our declaration. Kang Wu looked up at the giant alien. The laugh came again, stronger this time. He tried to stop it, but it kept coming. Soon he was chuckling, then giggling. then laughing so hard that tears started running down his face. "Are you mocking this council?" Vexathari roared. Kangwu wiped his eyes and tried to catch his breath. "I'm sorry," he said between giggles. "It's just, you're really going to do this? After 5,000 years, this is what you came up with?" Security drones started moving toward him. They looked like flying metal spiders with weapons attached. Kangwu ignored them and kept laughing. "You think we're dangerous because we appear in places you can't reach?" he said, still chuckling. "You think we're a threat because we found faster trade routes? You think we're scary because aliens like our movies?" He looked around the chamber at all the angry faces. "You have 847 different species. Some of you can travel through dimensions. Some of you can change the color of stars. Some of you have lived for millions of years. And you're afraid of us?" "We are not afraid," Vexthari shouted. "We are maintaining order." "Right order," Kangwu said, nodding. His laughter was finally under control, but he couldn't stop smiling. "You want to maintain the natural order of the galaxy, where the big, old species stay in charge and the small, young species know their place." He put his tablet in his pocket and straightened his jacket. "Here's the thing, Supreme Overlord. You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you?" The security drones were almost close enough to grab him now. Kangwu didn't seem to care. "You've been watching us for 5,000 years, he said calmly. "You've seen us spread across the galaxy. You've seen us do things that surprise you. You've seen us change things that you thought couldn't be changed. And your response is to declare war and give us one solar cycle to surrender." He shook his head, still smiling. "One solar cycle. You really think that's enough time for humans to decide something this important?" Vexathari leaned forward on his platform. "You will surrender, or you will be destroyed." Kangwu looked up at the massive alien leader. His smile got wider. "Supreme Overlord, let me ask you something. In all your millions of years of experience, in all your advanced wisdom, did you ever stop to think about why we've been so patient with you?" The chamber went very quiet. Even the security drones stopped moving. 5,000 years, Kangwu said softly. "We've been part of your galactic community for 5,000 years. We've followed your rules. We've paid your taxes. We've attended your meetings. We've been polite and friendly and cooperative. Did you ever wonder why?" He started walking toward the exit. The security drones moved to block him, but something made them hesitate. "Did you ever think," Kangwu said as he walked, "that maybe we've been waiting for you to finally show us who you really are?" He reached the chamber doors and turned around one last time. 847 alien species stared at him in confused silence. "Well," he said cheerfully, "now we know. Thank you for finally being honest with us. We'll be in touch." The doors closed behind him with a soft click, leaving the most powerful beings in the galaxy sitting in stunned silence. Park Jin moved his white stone to the corner of the board and smiled. His daughter Hana frowned at the move, trying to figure out his strategy. They had been playing this game of Baduk for 2 hours in Jin's office high above Seoul. The communication alert chimed softly. Jin glanced at the message that appeared on his desk screen while Hana studied the board. His expression didn't change as he read the words, "Galactic War Declaration, Priority 1, Immediate Response Required." "Your move," he said to Hana, then casually typed a short reply. "Received. Standard Protocol 7. Will advise when ready for Phase 2. Hana placed her black stone and looked up. Was that important? "The Galactic Council just declared war on humanity," Jin said, considering his next move. "They want us to surrender in one solar cycle or they'll destroy our species." Hana blinked. "Oh, are you worried?" Jin moved another white stone. "Not particularly. We've been expecting this for about 3,000 years. Your move." While father and daughter continued their game, the galaxy began the largest military buildup in its history. On the Dracmonian homeworld, massive factories that had been sleeping for centuries roared back to life. They started building warships the size of mountains, each one capable of cracking a planet in half. The Zephyrian Collective opened their dimensional forges. These were weapons that could phase in and out of reality, making them impossible to hit while they destroyed everything around them. The Collective had only used them once before, to end a war that had lasted 1,000 years. In the Korthak system, engineers worked day and night to prepare their star killers. These were bombs that could make a sun explode, destroying everything within 50 light-years. The Korthak had built 12 of them over the past 1,000,000 years, but had never used one. Now they were loading all 12 onto their fastest ships. Across 10,000 worlds, alien species contributed their deadliest weapons to the cause. The hegemony's military advisors estimated they would need no more than 1 week to eliminate all human resistance. The war would be over before most humans even knew it had started. On Earth, the news was very different. Dr. Lee Yoon stood behind a podium in the Global Communications Center, facing a room full of journalists. Most of them looked bored. One was checking her phone. Another was eating a sandwich. "Dr. Lee," said a reporter from the back, "is it true that aliens have declared war on us?" "Yes, that's correct," Lee Yoon replied. "The galactic hegemony has given us 1 solar cycle to surrender or face total extinction." A few journalists looked up from their phones. "Are you concerned about this development?" asked another reporter. Lee Yoon shrugged. "We've been ready for this conversation for about 3,000 years. We're just surprised it took them this long to ask." "What conversation?" the reporter pressed. "The one where they stop pretending we're equals and show us what they really think of us," Lee Yoon said calmly. "Now, did anyone want to discuss the new season of Love in the Stars? I hear the ratings have been incredible." The reporters immediately perked up and started asking questions about the popular TV show. The war declaration was forgotten within minutes. On the outer rim of human space, Captain Kim Sol was loading cargo onto her ship, the Lucky Fortune. The vessel was old and looked like it might fall apart at any moment, but it had served Kim well for 15 years of trading runs. An alien dock worker, a tall blue creature with 6 arms, approached her nervously. "Captain Kim," he said in broken human language, "is true that your people are at war now?" Kim paused in her loading. "Which war?" "The big war," the alien said, waving his arms. "The council says they will destroy all humans." "Oh, that," Kim said, going back to her work. "Yeah, should be interesting." The alien stared at her. "You are not afraid?" Kim laughed. "Friend, I've been flying through space for 15 years. You know what's really scary? Running out of coffee when you're 3 weeks from the nearest station. Wars come and go, but good coffee is forever." The alien watched her continue loading cargo as if nothing had happened. All around the station, other humans were going about their normal business. None of them seemed worried about the impending destruction of their species. Meanwhile, in the military centers of a dozen different alien civilizations, generals and admirals were having very different conversations. "How many ships do the humans have?" asked General Thekmore of the Drachmonian Empire. "Our best estimate is around 50,000 vessels," replied his intelligence officer. "Most of them appear to be civilian cargo ships or small exploration craft. 50,000 ships against our combined fleet of 8 million, Thekmore mused. "This will be over quickly." "What about their defensive systems?" asked Admiral Zafira of the collective. "Minimal," came the response. "They have some energy shields and basic weapons, but nothing that could threaten our advanced technology. Most human worlds don't even have orbital defense platforms, and their military technology, primitive. They still use projectile weapons and chemical explosives. Their fastest ships can barely reach half-light speed. We estimate their entire military could be defeated by a single one of our battle groups. On the neutral station Nexus Prime, things were much quieter. The station served as a meeting place for dozens of different species, and tensions were usually high. Today they were through the roof. In a small cafe called Human Comforts, Choi Min was serving coffee to a steady stream of nervous customers. Most of them were aliens who had worked with humans before and didn't know what to think about the war declaration. A Drachmonian refugee, one of the few members of his species who opposed the war, sat at a corner table trembling. Min brought him a fresh cup of earth coffee and sat down across from him. "They're really going to do it," the Drachmonian said. "My people are building planet killers. Other species are preparing weapons I've never even heard of. They're going to wipe you out completely." Min stirred sugar into her own coffee. "That's what they think. Aren't you going to evacuate?" The Drachmonian asked. "Aren't you going to run? Hide? Do something?" Min looked out the cafe's window at the stars beyond. "Friend, we've been waiting 5,000 years for them to finally see us clearly. Why would we run now? But they're going to kill you all." "Are they?" Min asked, taking a sip of her coffee. "You know, in all the time you've known humans, have we ever seemed like the kind of species that would just lie down and die quietly?" The Drachmonian thought about this. He had worked with humans for decades. They were always polite, always helpful, always seemed to know just a little bit more than they should about everything. They were also completely unafraid of things that terrified other species. "What aren't you telling us?" he asked quietly. Min smiled and patted his arm. "Nothing, friend. We've never lied to any of you. We've been exactly what we appeared to be from the very beginning." "Then how are you so calm?" "Because," Min said, standing up to serve another customer, "we've been having this conversation for 3,000 years. Every war game, every strategy session, every what-if scenario our leaders have discussed since we joined the galactic community has been about this exact moment. The moment when the rest of the galaxy stops pretending we belong and shows us their true nature." She walked away to take another order, leaving the Drachmonian to stare into his coffee and wonder what he was missing. Back on Earth, Park Jin finally won his game of Baduk. Hana shook her head in frustration. "I still don't understand how you do that," she said. "Patience," Jin replied, gathering up the stones, and thinking several moves ahead. His communication system chimed again. This time the message read, "Hegemony fleets moving to attack positions, estimated arrival at human worlds in 72 hours. Jin typed back, "Acknowledged. All units maintain current positions. Do not engage until Phase 2 authorization." "Dad," Hana said, "are you sure we're going to be okay?" Park Jin looked at his daughter and smiled. "Hana, your grandfather used to tell me that the best way to win a fight is to let your opponent think they understand you completely. For 5,000 years, the galaxy has thought they understood humanity. They think we're a young, weak species that got lucky and spread a little farther than we should have." He gestured toward the window, where the lights of Seoul stretched to the horizon. "They have no idea what they're actually fighting. And by the time they figure it out, this war will already be over." Hana nodded, though she still looked worried. "How long do you think it will take?" "For the fighting to end?" Jin considered this. "Maybe a week. For them to understand what really happened, that might take another 1,000 years." Outside, the city continued its normal rhythm. Somewhere in the distance, the galaxy's largest war fleet was moving toward Earth. But in the heart of humanity's homeworld, a father and daughter put away their game and went to have dinner, completely unworried about the approaching storm. The hegemony fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a metal storm. 50,000 warships appeared in perfect formation around the human world of New Busan. Each ship was bigger than a city. Some were longer than mountains. The combined firepower could have turned a dozen planets into dust. Admiral Corex of the Drachmonian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Destroyer. Through the massive viewing window, he could see New Busan floating peacefully in space. It looked like a simple farming world with green continents and blue oceans. No orbital defenses, no military stations, no sign that anyone even knew the fleet was there. "This is almost too easy," said Commander Vrel, Corex's second-in-command. "Our intelligence reports were correct. This world has no defenses at all." Corex nodded. "Begin the demonstration bombardment. Target the largest city. We'll give them one chance to surrender before we destroy the entire planet." The fleet's weapons powered up. Energy signatures that could be felt across the solar system began building in the massive guns. Each shot would hit with the force of a nuclear weapon. The plan was simple: destroy one city, demand surrender, then move on to the next human world. A communication signal came from the planet's surface. Corex was surprised. He hadn't expected the humans to respond so quickly. "This is Governor Yu Jay of New Busan," said a calm voice. The image that appeared on the main screen showed a middle-aged human woman sitting behind a simple desk. She looked completely relaxed. "I understand you're here to attack our world." "Surrender immediately," Corex commanded, "and we will spare your population. Resist, and we will destroy every living thing on your planet." Governor Yu Jay nodded thoughtfully. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm afraid we'll have to decline. However, I do have a counter-proposal." Corex blinked in surprise. "A counter-proposal?" "You have 30 seconds to withdraw before we respond proportionally," the governor said politely. "After that, things might get unpleasant for your fleet." The bridge of the Eternal Destroyer erupted in laughter. The idea that a defenseless farming world could threaten the most powerful fleet in galactic history was absurd. 30 seconds? Corex said, still chuckling. "What exactly do you think you're going to do to us with your farming equipment?" 25 seconds, Governor UJ said, checking what looked like an ordinary wristwatch. Corex shook his head and turned to his weapons officer. "Begin bombardment. Target their capital city first." 15 seconds, the governor said calmly. Sir, said the weapons officer, all batteries are charged and ready to fire. 10 seconds. Fire at will, Corex commanded. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Governor UJ looked up from her watch. Time's up. I'm sorry about this. Nothing happened. Corex waited for the sounds of his weapons firing. The bridge remained quiet. He looked at his weapons officer, who was staring at his controls in confusion. Sir, the officer said slowly, the weapons aren't responding. What do you mean they're not responding? I mean nothing is working. The firing systems, the targeting computers, even the basic controls, everything has just stopped. Corex felt a chill run down his spine. He looked out the viewing window at New Busan. The planet looked exactly the same as before. Peaceful, quiet, completely harmless. Then something impossible happened. Space began to bend. Corex watched in horror as the stars outside started to curve and twist. The fleet around him began to compress. Ships that had been light minutes apart suddenly finding themselves pressed together in a shrinking sphere of twisted space. What's happening? Commander Vrel screamed. I don't know. Corex shouted back. Navigation report. Sir, our sensors are showing impossible readings, the navigation officer called out. According to our instruments, the entire fleet has been moved into a pocket dimension that's only 1 kilometer wide. That's impossible. Yes, sir, it is impossible. But it's also happening. The compression continued until 50,000 massive warships were crammed into a space barely large enough for one. They should have collided and exploded. Instead, they simply occupied the same space without touching, as if the laws of physics had been temporarily suspended. A new voice filled every ship in the fleet simultaneously. It wasn't coming through their communication systems. It seemed to be speaking directly from inside their computer cores. Welcome to human space, said Admiral Sung Ho, appearing as a hologram on every bridge at once. He was a calm-looking man in his 50s, wearing a simple military uniform. Population: one small farming community of about 2 million people. Defensive capability sufficient. Corex stared at the hologram. How are you doing this? How are you inside our ships? Your choices are simple, Admiral Sung Ho continued, ignoring the question. Surrender now, or we'll show you what our actual military can do. This demonstration used approximately 0.01% of our available defensive systems. This is impossible, Corex roared. You're a primitive species. You don't have technology like this. Admiral Sung Ho's expression didn't change. Sir, you declared war on a species that's been preparing for this conversation since before your civilization discovered fire. We've had 5,000 years to think about what we'd say when you finally stopped pretending we were your equals. From across the fleet, reports started flooding in. Ship after ship reported the same impossible situation. They were trapped in a space that shouldn't exist, controlled by technology that shouldn't be possible. Demand to know how they're doing this. Corex ordered his communications officer. We're trying to understand your confusion, Admiral Sung Ho said, apparently hearing every conversation happening on every ship simultaneously. You've been watching us for 5,000 years. You've seen us appear in places you thought were unreachable. You've seen us develop technology faster than your models predicted. You've seen us influence cultures that have existed for millions of years. What exactly did you think we were? The pocket dimension began to shift. Half the fleet simply vanished. Not destroyed, not exploded, not reduced to debris. They simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been built. Corex watched 25,000 of the galaxy's most powerful warships disappear without a trace. No weapons had been fired. No explosions had occurred. They were just gone. That was a demonstration, Admiral Sung Ho said calmly. We could have removed all of you just as easily. We chose not to because we're still hoping you might be capable of learning something from this experience. What do you want? Corex asked, his voice barely a whisper. We want the same thing we've wanted for 5,000 years, Admiral Sung Ho replied. To coexist peacefully with our galactic neighbors. To share knowledge and culture and friendship. To explore the universe together as equals. But how are you so powerful? We're not particularly powerful, Admiral Sung Ho said. We're just very, very patient. And we've had a lot of time to prepare for this conversation. The pocket dimension began to expand, returning the remaining fleet to normal space. The ships found themselves exactly where they had started, but now they were missing half their number. Admiral Korex, Admiral Sung-ho said, you will return to the Galactic Council and deliver this message. Humanity does not surrender. We do not retreat, and we do not start fights. But we have been preparing to finish this one for 3,000 years. The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the hegemony fleet floating in stunned silence around New Busan. Governor Yujay's image appeared on their screens one last time. I really am sorry about your ships, she said sympathetically. But you did ignore our 30-second warning. Next time, we won't be so generous with the countdown. The communication cut off, leaving Admiral Korex staring at a planet that looked exactly like a simple farming world. Nothing had changed. The cities were still there, the farms were still growing crops, and the people were probably going about their normal daily lives. Except somehow, those normal people had just made 25,000 warships disappear from reality. Sir? Commander Vrel said quietly. What do we do now? Korex looked around at his remaining fleet. The most powerful military force in galactic history had just been defeated by a farming world without a single shot being fired. We retreat, he said finally, and we try to figure out what we just learned. What did we learn, sir? Korex stared at New Busan one last time before giving the order to withdraw. We learned that we never understood humans at all. As the fleet prepared to leave, reports started coming in from across the galaxy. Every human world was reporting similar incidents. Massive hegemony fleets were arriving at human colonies, only to be politely but firmly reminded that declaring war on humanity might not have been the wisest decision. The galaxy's greatest military operation was turning into its greatest embarrassment. One planet at a time, and on New Busan, Governor Yu Jae finished her report and went home to have dinner with her family just like any other day. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 5,000-year history. Representatives from all 847 member species crowded into the Great Chamber, their voices creating a chaos of fear and confusion. Supreme Overlord Vexithari slammed his massive fist on the speaker's platform, demanding silence. Order, we will have order. Admiral Korex stood at the witness platform, his gray skin even paler than usual. Around the chamber, other military commanders who had faced humanity's impossible defenses sat in stunned silence. Explain this disaster, Vexithari commanded. How did the greatest fleet in galactic history suffer such losses to a species of primitive farmers? They're not primitive, Korex said quietly. We don't know what they are, but they're not primitive. 50,000 ships lost, roared General Thekmore from the Korthek Dominion. Ships that took centuries to build, gone without a trace. And you have no explanation? They didn't destroy our ships, Korex said. They just made them stop existing, like they were never built in the first place. Nervous murmurs rippled through the chamber. This was beyond any known technology. That's impossible, declared High Scientist Nexara of the Zephyrian Collective. Matter cannot simply cease to exist. It violates the fundamental laws of physics. Tell that to my missing fleet, Korex replied bitterly. A new voice spoke from the chamber floor. May I address the council? Everyone turned to see a small human woman walking toward the center of the room. She moved calmly, her simple clothes and modest appearance making her look completely out of place among the towering alien beings. Dr. Han B., she said, introducing herself, Chief Xenoanthropologist for the Human Cooperative. I requested permission to speak because I believe I can answer your questions. Vexthari leaned forward. You will explain how your species accomplished the impossible. I'll explain why you think it's impossible, Dr. Han replied. The problem isn't what we did. The problem is what you've never understood about us. She activated a small device and holographic displays appeared around the chamber. They showed star maps, trade routes, and cultural exchange data spanning 5,000 years. You asked how we accomplished the impossible, Dr. Han said. The answer is that you've fundamentally misunderstood what the last 5,000 years have been. The first hologram showed human expansion across the galaxy. What looked like simple colonization patterns suddenly revealed hidden complexities when viewed from Dr. Han's perspective. You saw this as peaceful integration, she explained. A young species grateful to be accepted into galactic civilization. But look more carefully. The display zoomed in on individual human colonies. Each one was positioned at a strategic choke point, resource hub, or communication relay. What had appeared random was actually perfectly planned. Every human settlement was chosen for maximum strategic value, Dr. Han said calmly. We've been conducting the longest reconnaissance mission in galactic history. The alien representatives began to mutter uneasily. The implications were becoming clear. Impossible, Vexthari declared. Our security services would have detected military intelligence operations. Would they? Dr. Han asked. A new hologram appeared showing a human trade ship. This is Captain Kim Sol's vessel, the Lucky Fortune. Your records show it as a simple cargo hauler. In reality, it's been mapping every military installation, resource depot, and defense network in the galaxy for 15 years. The hologram rotated, revealing hidden sensor arrays and data collection systems integrated into the ship's basic structure. Every human trader has been gathering intelligence, Dr. Han continued. Every human artist studying your psychology. Every human scientist reverse engineering your technology and improving it. Every human diplomat learning your weaknesses. Specialist Otai, a quiet young man, stepped forward. If I may provide specific examples. Dr. Han nodded. Otai activated his own displays. Human trade routes, he said, showing the galactic map. You thought we were just finding efficient paths between markets. Actually, we were mapping every strategic resource and choke point in the galaxy. We now have complete data on every supply line, every military base, and every critical system in hegemony space. The displays showed route after route, each one revealing hidden strategic value. Human cultural exports, Otai continued. You enjoyed our entertainment and art. You thought it was just creative expression. Actually, it was psychological warfare designed to make your populations unconsciously adopt human thought patterns. Examples flashed across the screens. Popular alien shows that had been influenced by human storytelling techniques, art forms that had slowly changed alien aesthetic preferences, music that had subtly altered alien emotional responses. Human research stations, Otai said. You thought we were conducting scientific studies. Actually, we were testing weapons and defensive systems. Every research facility in human space is also a military installation. The final revelation was the most devastating. Otai brought up population data. You think humanity numbers about 50 billion individuals across 200 worlds? He said quietly. That represents less than 0.01% of our actual population. Shocked silence filled the chamber. You've been coexisting with our scouting parties, Dr. Han said. Our actual civilization has been watching from outside this galaxy, waiting to see if you'd eventually recognize us as equals or if you'd do exactly what you just did. Supreme Overlord Vexthari's voice shook with rage. You're saying the last 5,000 years have been a lie? Not a lie, Dr. Han replied. A test. We genuinely hoped you might eventually move beyond your hierarchical thinking. We wanted to be wrong about you. Wrong about what? Wrong about the fact that you see the galaxy as a pyramid, with the oldest and largest species at the top and everyone else knowing their place below. We hoped that given enough time, enough positive interaction, enough evidence that intelligence and wisdom don't correlate with size or age, you might evolve past that mindset. Dr. Han gestured around the chamber. Instead, you've proven that the moment you felt threatened by our existence, your first instinct was genocide. Not negotiation. Not compromise. Complete annihilation of every human in the galaxy. You deceived us, Vexthari roared. We were exactly what we appeared to be, Dr. Han said calmly. Peaceful neighbors who wanted to coexist and share in galactic civilization. We never lied about our intentions. We just didn't advertise our capabilities. Otai activated one final display. Would you like to see what we're actually capable of? The hologram showed a view of space that none of them recognized. Stars arranged in impossible patterns, structures that dwarfed entire solar systems, ships that looked like moving galaxies. This is our actual civilization, Otai said quietly. We span 17 galaxies. Our population numbers in the trillions. Our technology is approximately 50,000 years ahead of yours. The chamber fell into absolute silence. The fleet you sent to destroy us, Dr. Han said, could have been eliminated completely without us noticing. What happened at New Busan was us being as gentle as possible while still making our point. What point? Vexthari asked, his voice barely a whisper. That we've been part of your galactic community for 5,000 years. Not because we needed your protection or approval, but because we wanted to be part of something larger than ourselves. We wanted to belong to a civilization that valued wisdom over power, cooperation over domination. Dr. Han looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces staring at her in shock. We hoped that eventually you'd see us as we really are. Not young or old, not big or small, not powerful or weak. Just conscious beings trying to make sense of the universe together. She began walking toward the exit. Instead, you've shown us that after millions of years of existence, you're still afraid of anyone who doesn't fit into your predetermined categories. Wait, Vexithari called out. What happens now? Dr. Han paused at the chamber doors. Now you have a choice. You can continue this war and discover just how vast the universe really is beyond this little galaxy, or you can choose to grow beyond the need for wars entirely. And if we choose war? Dr. Han looked back at the Supreme Overlord with something that might have been pity. Then you'll learn why we've been so patient with you. Not because we're weak, but because we understand the difference between being able to destroy something and needing to destroy it. She walked out, leaving the most powerful beings in the galaxy, sitting in stunned silence, finally beginning to understand what they had gotten themselves into. Outside the chamber, Dr. Han activated her communication device. This is Dr. Han. Phase 3 is authorized. Let them know what they're really fighting. The real war was about to begin. President Nam Kyung stood in what had appeared to be a simple office in Seoul. Behind her, the walls dissolved like morning mist, revealing a view that made every being in the galaxy stop what they were doing and stare. Earth was not what anyone had thought it was. The planet's surface lifted away like the shell of an egg, revealing a construct that stretched beyond the edge of the solar system. What they had thought was a simple world was actually a small part of something that incorporated entire stars into its structure. Solar engineering on a scale that redefined their understanding of what was possible. Citizens of the galaxy, President Nam Kyung said, her voice reaching every communication device in known space simultaneously. For 5,000 years we have existed among you as your neighbors, your friends, your trading partners. Across the galaxy, humans dropped their disguises. Cargo ships revealed themselves as vessels that could manipulate space-time. Research stations opened up to show technologies that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Human colonies expanded before everyone's eyes, revealing cities that existed in multiple dimensions at once. We have watched your children grow up, the president continued. We have celebrated your achievements and mourned your losses. We have shared our culture with you and learned from yours. We hope that given enough time you would see past the arbitrary hierarchies that divide you. On the bridge of the Eternal Destroyer, Admiral Korex watched his sensors go completely insane. They were detecting impossible energy signatures from every human world, ships that read as being bigger than planets, structures that existed in more dimensions than his instruments could measure. We hoped, President Nam Kyung said, that you would recognize that consciousness itself, not size or age or technology, is what makes a species worthy of respect. General Ryu Huan appeared simultaneously in every hegemony command center across the galaxy. Not as holograms this time, but as if he was physically present in all locations at once. You wanted to see our weapons? He asked conversationally to the terrified military leaders. This conversation is our weapon. The fact that I'm speaking to all of you in all of your spaces, through systems you thought were secure, that's us demonstrating that we've been inside your civilization so completely that there's no meaningful distinction between your technology and ours. On the neutral station, Nexus Prime, Choi Min watched through her cafe window as space itself began to change. Stars rearranged themselves into new patterns. Entire star systems moved to form geometric shapes visible across light years. We could have done this at any time in the last 3,000 years, President Nam Kyung explained. But conquest isn't the goal of a truly advanced species. Coexistence is. In the Seoul Command Center, Park Hana sat next to her father, watching displays that showed the true scope of human civilization, fleets that spanned galaxies, cities built around black holes, populations that numbered in the trillions. You know the really amazing part, she said to her father. We actually meant it when we said we wanted to be friends. Park Jin nodded sadly. 5,000 years of genuine friendship offered, and they chose to see it as deception. The demonstrations continued across known space. Humans revealed that they had been subtly maintaining the galactic ecosystem for millennia. Stars that should have gone supernova had been stabilized. Asteroid collisions that would have destroyed inhabited worlds had been quietly prevented. Entire species had been guided away from evolutionary dead ends. You see, said Engineer Park Hana, now addressing the galaxy directly. We could have conquered you at any point in the last 3,000 years. But that would have made us your masters, not your equals. We didn't want subjects. We wanted friends. The most devastating revelation came when humans showed that they had been watching not just this galaxy, but dozens of others. The hegemony's mighty civilization was revealed to be a small collection of species in a single galaxy, while humanity spanned a significant portion of the known universe. Every time one of your species developed nuclear weapons, General Ryu Huan explained to the stunned military leaders, we were there to prevent accidents. Every time your economies collapsed, we quietly stabilized your trade routes. Every time your species faced extinction from natural disasters, we diverted asteroids and stabilized unstable stars. You never knew we were helping, he continued, because help given openly creates dependence. Help given secretly allows growth. Supreme Overlord Vexthari's voice crackled over emergency channels. What do you want from us? President Nam Kyung smiled sadly. The same thing we've always wanted. To be part of a galactic community where species cooperate instead of dominate, where wisdom is valued over power, where consciousness is respected regardless of the form it takes. But you're so much more powerful than us, Vexthari said. Power without wisdom is meaningless, the president replied. We've had the ability to reshape galaxies for thousands of years. The question is whether we have the wisdom to use that power responsibly. The space around Earth continued to transform, revealing the true scale of human engineering. What they had thought was a solar system was actually a small part of a structure that extended across multiple galaxies. Humans hadn't just colonized space. They had become part of space itself. You have a choice now, President Nam Kyung said. You can continue this war and learn exactly how vast the universe really is. How many species like yourselves exist in the 17 galaxies we call home? How small and isolated your little hegemony truly is. She paused, looking directly into the cameras that were broadcasting to every world in known space. Or you can choose to grow, to become the civilization we always hoped you could be, to join us not as subjects but as true equals in something bigger than any one species could achieve alone. The offer hung in the silence of space. If you choose growth, the president continued, we'll teach you what we've learned in our millions of years of existence. We'll show you technologies that could transform your civilizations. We'll share knowledge that could solve every problem your species face. And if we choose war, Vexthari asked, then you'll discover that there are civilizations in this universe that make humanity look primitive. President Nam Kyung said quietly, we're not the apex predators of the galaxy. We're not even close. We're just the ones who chose to be patient with you. The revelation sent chills through every alien leader listening. If humanity was this advanced and they weren't even the most powerful species in the universe, what else was out there? The universe is vast and full of wonders, the president said. It's also full of species that would view your hegemony as we viewed it. A collection of young civilizations still learning to think beyond their own immediate needs. We chose to be patient. We chose to hope you could grow. Others might not be so generous. She gestured to the transformed Earth, now revealed as a small part of a galactic-scale construct. This is your invitation to join something greater than yourselves, to become part of a community that spans multiple galaxies and includes thousands of species who have learned to coexist without the need for hierarchies or wars. The choice is yours, President Nam Kyung concluded. You can evolve or you can remain forever in our shadow, never knowing what you could have become. In the great chamber of the Galactic Council, 847 species sat in stunned silence. For the first time in their history, they faced a decision that would determine not just their survival, but their very nature as civilizations. Outside, the stars themselves had been rearranged to spell out a simple message visible from every world in the galaxy. Choose wisely. The age of the galactic hegemony was over. What would replace it was up to them. In her cafe on Nexus Prime, Choi Min served coffee to a room full of aliens who were finally beginning to understand what they had been sharing the galaxy with for 5,000 years. Some were terrified. Others were amazed. A few were starting to ask the right questions. What happens now? Asked the Drachmonian refugee. Min smiled as she cleaned another cup. Now they get to decide what kind of species they want to be. Just like we did a very long time ago. And if they choose badly, then they'll keep learning until they choose better, Min said. After all, we've got all the time in the universe. Outside the cafe windows, the stars continued their slow dance into new configurations, spelling out humanity's eternal message to the galaxy: patience, wisdom, and hope for what consciousness could become when it finally learned to reach beyond itself. The 5,000-year peace was over. What came next would be up to everyone.